What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I'm your host, as always, the dad bod god, the bald, the beard, and the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And tonight, wherever you're tuning in, we have a very, very special guest. We have the one and only, the whole fucking show, Rob Van Dam, joining me for a conversation. I'm very, very excited to have Rob on. RVD has been one guy I've been wanting to get on my podcast like since the beginning, man. Very cool dude. And I'm really excited to have this conversation. But before we get into that conversation with the whole fucking show, let's take a quick second to thank the whole fucking sponsors. First up is healthvape.com. Now, Health Vape is your healthy vaping alternative, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're one of those filthy smokers or one of those filthy vapors, you need to get on healthvape.com. All of their products are no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals. They help restore your energy while giving you that vital boost you need to get through your day. And they are vitamin infused. So guys, go and check out healthvape.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, you know you got to go and check out Sleeps.com because Sleeps is your one-stop shop for all your athletic wear and gear. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression shorts, headbands, boots, mouth guards, and they've even got those dirty boxes. And I got to say, guys, I'm an active dude. I work full-time. I podcast. I've got 3 kids. I work out constantly. These dirty boxes stay dry. They stay fresh, and they come with really cool, funky designs on the front of them. So go and check out those dirty boxes at sleeps.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Guys, wherever you are finding us, we appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. If you're listening on a podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. We appreciate it. But guys, without further ado, it's time for me to get into my conversation with the whole fucking show, ladies and gentlemen, Rob fucking Van Dam. Boom, and we're live. RVD, thank you for joining the show, brother.
Absolutely. After seeing that opening and seeing all your previous guests, I know this is going to be the funnest podcast ever. I can see it in their faces.
Dude, like, we try and do the coolest podcast we can, try and do something unique, and I'm really glad to have you on because I meant what I said when I started this. Like, when I started like doing podcasting, you were like one of the top guys I wanted to have on because like for me, when I watched you as a performer, like your character and you as the person seem to very much resonate very similar. You know what I mean? Like, when you see characters that are very much like the person who is portraying them. And that to me was like, you seem like the most realist character in professional wrestling, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. It's something that I hear often. I take it as a compliment because I translate that to being genuine.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, it's interesting, man, because like seeing what you're doing now as well, outside of wrestling, what you've been able to do as far as like, being an advocate for marijuana and the benefits of medicinal marijuana and what it does, and starting your own CBD company. Was starting the CBD company and putting out your own product line something you wanted to do for a long time? And how long did the whole process take before it was able to launch?
Not really. In the back of my mind, I always thought it would be cool to have my brand of cannabis in some area, because some of my friends were doing it. They seemed like they were doing pretty well with it, but I didn't really understand it, and it wasn't time yet, because people can grow whatever they want and call it whatever they want. And I have seen a lot of bud, where someone says, "Hey, look, this is called RVD Rolling Thunder," or whatever. So it didn't really mean anything as far as like having my own strand. But as it got quasi legalized and the packaging became something, now you can protect yourself with official, trademark packaging and shit. And so I started, my interest started thinking maybe the time is approaching to look into that. And I was reading a article in a Time magazine about NFL players and, of course, CTE, the studies. And they were talking about CBG, which a lot of people have never even heard of, and saying that it could potentially regenerate dead brain tissue. And they were thinking about making a pregame pill to let NFL players consume this to protect their brain during the game. And that really had my interest. I've been following the science for a long time, and knew that there was a correlation between the THC and the healing of brain trauma. And so I ended up, through a friend, talking to somebody that dealt with CBDs. They had their own CBD company, and I ended up partnering with them, making RVD CBD. And I try out every single product and tweak a lot of them, or turn them down, but don't put anything out that I haven't tried myself. And CBG, by the way, is a lot like a stem cell in the respects that it's CBG is an early life stage cannabinoid that can then grow into something else and become a CBD or a THC.
Right, so it's like a before it goes into CBD or THC, really. So it's not really one or the other at that stage.
Right. So there's a lot of value in getting that. The CBG dominant plants, which, you got a lot of the other plant compared to how much of it is CBG, even if you're growing them generationally dominant with the CBG. But it's a process. And, until recently, it was illegal to study cannabis in the United States anyway. Since 1947, it was illegal to study marijuana. Now that we're able to actually look at it, now we're learning it's not just something that gets you high, because that's all we knew was THC. Now everybody is starting to understand, but there's over 100 different cannabinoids in the plant. CBD, and THC are just two of them. CBN, CBG are just two more, but over 100. And we're really just getting into the studies. It's the most resourceful plant on the planet. And when it comes to the medicinal benefits, we're just starting to learn what we're going to be able to do by manipulating and combining the cannabinoids in whatever favored fashion we want to do.
It's crazy to think that like a plant that is so beneficial in many different ways. Like I watched a documentary not too long ago on Hulu, and it was basically like the history of marijuana and the benefits of it. And they had like this young family with young kids who had like diagnosed with leukemia. You know what I mean? Like they'd have every treatment. They would basically said like 6 months, and then they, as a last resort, tried cannabis treatment, and then everything started to, you know what I mean, like slow down. These kids' lives are like, you know what I mean, now 8 years past, these kids are still alive and running around kicking and healthy kids.
Yeah, it's crazy that it gets so much pushback, but that's how the world works. It's all for profit. And the fact that the plant could put like 80% of everything out of business is a serious threat because, it's not just, we used to know you can make some shitty clothes with hemp, and then we know you can smoke it, but man, you can do anything, like not just like the lumber in the walls, but the paint, everything. You can make shampoo, you can eat it. Henry Ford made a car out of hemp that ran on hemp seed oil. And yeah, they they that hurts Rockefeller's pocket because he makes his money off of oil, and so that's why it's been since 1936. This guy Harry Anslinger, he was the head of the FBN, which was the equivalent of today's DEA, and this guy had a hard on for marijuana. He went and campaigned all over states, went to schools, invited parents to come out and watch that ridiculous movie Reefer Madness.
Yeah, I remember watching that as a teenager and going, "This is ridiculous shit." You know what I mean? Like, but I feel like anyone who is like that against marijuana just needs to hit it one time, and they'd be like, "It's pretty fucking good," to experience it. Like it is, man. But have you found like, because you had a severe concussion a little while ago that was well documented a few years ago, and being a cannabis user, and now like obviously you finding these different cannabinoids to use, have you found those benefiting and helping your recovery from that concussion?
Yes, I have, and I do a lot, so it's hard to sometimes put my finger on exactly what it is that's helping, because I did the stem cells and I didn't get that good of reaction from it. And then I started doing red light therapy and I did get good reaction from that, and I also tried the oxygen chamber, and I take a lot of different supplements, and a lot of times when there's a brain pill, I'll try it. Sometimes it's gummies or whatever. That's still something that I want to have my brand is some kind of a brain pill, and we are working on that. But that's always going to be like the backbone of motivation for me, and that is why I started the company, because a lot of my peers have head trauma, and a lot of them have died eventually, either from opiate overdoses or from straight up suicide. Both of those being linked back to the brain trauma, and so I lost a lot of friends that way, and that motivated me to want to get into the fight, get into the studies, get into the world, and so it's been great making these products available to more people. RVDCBD.com is the best place to go. We don't ship it internationally right now, but helping a lot of people with that. But still working on the ultimate brain formula, though. Something that I know will help a lot of people. But yeah, I feel there's certain times I just feel a lot more clarity, and my memory amazes me. And I'm a lot of times I'm like trying to put my finger on, what can I give credit for that too,
Yeah. And I think that like like what you're doing now is trying to find other avenues to help people that are in like, professional wrestling or combat sports, that, if we can start avoiding, history repeating itself, so to speak, you know what I mean? Because like wrestling is a very physical business. And when you're at the level that you were at, for a very, very long time, working nearly every night, like it's, you put your body through so much. And that's why I respect professional wrestlers so much, because of the grind that they do. Like you have to respect that.
Yeah. And we didn't know back in the day that concussions could lead to any kind of a long-term brain damage. There wasn't talks about that. I mean, I knew there was something, called punch drunk, the boxers would get when they're older after having a lot of matches where they're kind of loopy or whatever. I understood that, but I didn't make those connections with me knocking my head silly every once in a while and having everything just spin, or sometimes everything being slow motion for a second. I just figured that was just part of the job. I got whacked in the head and just had to shake it off usually, and just went right back onto the match. And then, after all the studies were showing what the brains look like after they've been atrophied from the damage, and especially CTE and all the tau proteins sitting on it, making it inoperable almost. They kind of changed everything. Just like, hey, I go with the science.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you have to. I think you have to look at the scientific facts when they're presented, right?
Yeah.
But like for your style of wrestling, because like your style was very hard hitting, very like aggressive in a lot of ways, high flying. It looked like it took a lot out of you. Over your career, like now looking back at all the amazing things you've been able to do, is there any points that you look back at now and go, man, I wish I didn't do that spot, or I wish I didn't do that thing, or take that bump?
I could specifically take the one bump out of my career in 2016 that did give me the lasting concussion damage, because prior to that, I had nothing that was lasting, which was very rare in conversations talking to my friends. They would all say they get ringing in their ears, or they see floaters or headaches, whatever. I was always thinking, I think it might have something to do with my cannabis intake and keeping my levels high. That could have been helping protect my brain, and I always thought that before. But just that one simple little bump, I had double vision, and it stayed with me for the better part of 2 years. Crazy, it was crazy.
That's
But
nuts.
yeah, so I would take that, and it wasn't even anything that anybody noticed. It was just kind of like a weird Mexican kind of arm drag that I just like rolled through, just like dozens of other times. When I got to my feet, I needed a second to shake it off because everything was double, but this time I couldn't shake it off. It was so weird, and I had to go to a neurologist, and I had to get the MRI and the CAT scans. I had to go to vision therapy for a long time. It was crazy because the studies are so new. They really couldn't tell me that much, and say, am I going to be 100% someday? They're like, oh yeah, we think so. I'm like, but when? I don't know. But I mean, like in a few weeks, or you're saying like I could be like this for years, and then one day it'll just be 100%. And they were like, yeah, basically waiting for me to tell them all the answers because I'm part of the study.
Wow. And was the double vision like constant? Was it like 24/7, or was it?
It was at first. No, it really was at first. If I opened up one eye at a time, I was fine. If I opened them both up, I saw double. It was like that for a long time. Yeah.
That would like do your head in after a while. Like it would just
yeah. And then certain patterns, checker patterns and stuff like that on walls or whatever, I couldn't tell the depth of anything, and everything looked like 3D, like it was coming out. It was very weird, and I didn't enjoy it.
Oh, I can imagine you wouldn't. Like
No.
after that match, like were you back wrestling like the next week, or like
it was? It might have been 2 weeks later, something like that. Yeah, I wrestled Tommy Dreamer in Colombia in South America, and I still had double vision through the whole match.
Yeah, right. And how do you feel like the match went? Like, do you sort of look back and go, oh, like, it wasn't the same old RVD, or were you able to sort of feel it out just from memory and like ring experience?
Yeah, I don't think anybody knew but me and Tommy. I closed one eye for a lot of it, so that I wouldn't fall off the ropes or whatever, and had a pretty normal RVD Tommy Dreamer match.
No, that's incredible, man. But that's incredible that you can do that in that state that you're in, man. But like once you like started getting checked out, did you stop wrestling for a while? Like, did you take a break at least from the in ring?
No, I didn't. I didn't, and eventually the neurologist did clear me to wrestle. I told him I'd been wrestling anyway, but I wasn't super busy though at that time. So a couple of weeks would go by between a match. But when he cleared me, he told me if I got another concussion, it would be on its own. It wouldn't have anything to do with this one. And that's something that I always felt like this too, but it's against common belief. Most people think the more concussions you get, the more vulnerable you are to get more. I've never seen any evidence of that myself. And my neurologist agreed with me that each one is on its own.
Yeah. It like concussions and stuff like that are so unique and different to each and every person. You know what I mean? Like when you see, like when Edge made his comeback, then everyone's going, oh, well, does that mean like Paige can do a comeback and all these other people that are past injuries? But like those injuries and obviously neck injuries and concussions are separate. But it's like every injury, while it could be the similar body part is affected, it's always something different. It can be something different.
It's Chris Nowinski, he was a huge help when I was going through my issues. He got I don't know, maybe a small handful of concussions, and they just didn't go away. They gave him like constant headaches, and he had to quit wrestling because of it. But he turned it into such a silver lining by becoming the brain expert from the world of professional wrestling and comparing the reports of the wrestlers to the ones of NFL, because before him, people weren't considering that CTE was something that had entered the world of pro wrestling. And here Chris was saying it's the same thing, when your head's bouncing around. And so he's really amazing. He's an amazing person. And he's really done a lot for taking what the universe gave him and, making lemonade out of it.
But also as well, I think that it's also made performers now like more aware and to work safer. Like you don't really see like on WWE television like people taking chair shots to the head now, and like I mean, like is it really needed to do a chair shot to the head like in this day and age in wrestling? Do you think?
No, I don't. Part of doing that was just like I felt like that was just me as an artist. Part of what I enjoyed about all of my matches, especially in ECW, was showing that I'm tough. It's part of my ego is saying, you guys wouldn't survive what I'm going through, right now with these bumps I'm taking and all this stuff. And so, like Balls Mahoney, he prided himself on hitting the hardest with his chair. And I was so proud to be able to take it because it would just whack. And I would, I would feel like I want most people to know their head would split open. Mine wasn't going to because I'm a superhero. But in the meantime, it would ring my bell every time. Sometimes I'd be on the mat and I would like roll over and I think I'm supposed to be in my bed, and it's like all these, I'm in the middle of a venue with all these people. So that was part of it, showing how durable that I was. And besides that, I don't think that it is needed. And even back then, like even when I first came to WWE and had the hardcore title, Vince told me one time to put my hands up when I'm taking those chair shots. And I was like, nah, I appreciate it, but I'm good. And he's like, no, I'm telling you, put your hands up. And I was like, that's not me. That's the way other guys take it, and he said, Rob, listen, I'm your father telling you, put your hands up on those chair shots. He was like really serious and adamant about it, and I was just like, he's the boss, why am I going to argue with him about that? But it really made a lot more sense years later, seeing what was uncovered.
Yeah, I mean, getting hit in the head with one of those chairs, it's like, man, as you said, it rang your bell every single time. Do you think that was Vince trying to have a duty of care for you as a performer?
What do you mean?
Like he's your employer at the time. He's saying, no, I want you to protect yourself in this spot. Is that his duty of care as like the person who's contracting you to perform to look after his performer, to say like protect yourself?
I would say, among other things, yes, that's definitely part of it. And I'm sure he also thought it was unnecessary to take those shots to the head that could be damaging, could be causing something inside, could be hurting me, could split me open, whatever. I think part of it is dutiful, and part of it is probably just being just caring. But yeah, he was the authoritative figure saying, put your hands up when you take the chair shots. And I was looking at it as just a perspective from an artist. And it was a very limited perspective, but I see that now.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you can always look back in hindsight at those moments, once you've sort of, gone through and experienced other stuff and look back in retrospect. But, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and I'm sure you've spoken about this before, but the original Sheik, training with him and Sabu, like, dude, like the original Sheik to me was one of like the most baddest motherfuckers, in his era. And one of the most realist, believable, if you want to call it like that, to people watching wrestling at that time. Like, he looked like an absolute maniac and he made you believe that. Sabu, same thing. Like, I think very committed to the character. But what was like, how did you first find Sheik and Sabu? Like, how did you come across them?
I was working at a grocery store, bagging groceries, and I struck up a conversation with this big 310-pound power lifter talking about wrestling. And he was telling me that he was working out and being trained by the original Sheik. It was just 45 minutes from where we lived. And I was trying to save money, thinking I was going to have to fly to Boston to get trained by Killer Kowalski and somehow save up thousands of dollars and figure out how to take care of myself for the first time in my life, in a big city. That would have been rough, but the Sheik was very close. Turns out him and Kowalski both got trained by the same guy anyway, Bert Ruby, which is an interesting fact. But he brought me one time, or he talked to Sheik. He okayed it and brought me one time, and Sheik took a look at me, and it was pretty frightening. He's a pretty scary guy. Definitely scary. Didn't break character. I think that commitment is what's missing a lot with wrestlers now, and I don't know how to install it in them, but it was always installed in me. Like, I always believed everything that I was doing from the beginning. So there was no time to just sit there and be looking and waiting for the next move like a lot of these people are. And I know it doesn't come across like that with me because I'm not doing that. I'm working, trying to get out of the spot I'm in, or trying to push somebody away or whatever. And that's the commitment. And I'm glad that she taught me that. I think that's one thing that makes me and Sabu differently. Although Sabu's a little beat up right now, so we'll take what we can get.
Absolutely, man. But like, how did you how long did it take for like Sheik to then sort of like drop that barrier down and sort of like smarten you up?
Well, first off, he never did smarten me up. Myself and my friend Dango, Tom, the big guy, there's one other guy, George. We were very rarely all four of us together, but that was as big as the class would get with Sabu. Never one time was there any talk of safety, or this is how to land without breaking your tailbone, or this is how to drop kick a guy without kicking his teeth in. There was never ever any of that ever. That wasn't part of my wrestling. It was all about, like, if the guy I'm in the ring with, if his back is on the mat, I need to dive on him because I'm trying to win the match. What are you doing looking at the crowd? Fucking, he's down, get him. That's the way I got trained, was to pounce on him, try to win. I'm always trying to win the whole time. And he never did smarten me up. We knew as wrestling fans that to an extent that we were going to have to work with each other to get, through to get some stuff across instead of just playing tug of war the whole time. So we knew, and we knew enough to where I guess he didn't have to say anything because we would practice. But all he ever said though was that we were too soft with each other, or are you afraid you're going to hurt him or something? Grab him, squeeze him, and bring him in close. And it was his training was very rough, physical.
Yeah, but like, do you find like his style of training? How do you think that would resonate in a place like the Performance Center if he was to go in there as a coach in like 2022? He back in his day.
I have no idea. I really don't know. I don't know. I think I'm a bit out of touch to try to know what they'd be teaching someone just starting out in 2022.
Sure.
I know that when I broke in, the number one rule was to protect the business at all costs. That was the number one rule, and that's instilled in me. So that's still a huge factor in me that I weigh against anytime I answer any questions, about the magic ingredients or anything. It's like,
sure.
But I think somewhere along the line that rule, the number one rule, changed from protect the business at all costs to safety first. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I think I heard that at a school in California that safety was first, and that right there tells you it's a complete different world than the one that I broke into. So I couldn't even guess what they're teaching somebody now. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because Angel, who wrestled in ECW as well, is a friend of mine, and he was trained by Johnny Rods, and he always told me, he goes, when he was like trained, he was told, if you get hurt in the ring, it's your own fault, because you know what I mean. Like that's what he put it down to, because you're in that situation, you agreed to be there, you know what I mean. Like you can't blame anyone else, and he said like that's just how it is, and he goes it's a very hard way how he came in. But he said he learned a respect for the business straight off the bat because of that.
Yeah. The way I was brought in, any visible injuries were just good for the business. So anytime I could have a black eye or bloody nose or something, I was always happy throughout my whole career, because I believe that it's good for the business. It's like someone nowadays, you look at 170-pound dude that looks like he's selling vacuum cleaners or whatever, and he's like, no, I'm a professional wrestler, and the look has changed that much to be inclusive with normal people that can relate, for better or worse. And I'm losing my point here because I was just trying to think if I actually had to be tested before the Sheik would take me. First I had to show him all of my athletic moves. I had to, because I told him I was a kickboxer and then I was acrobatic. Well, show me. So I had to, by myself, do a backflip. Okay, what else? Do a kick. What else? Well, I can do this and this and this and this. What else? What else? And then finally he had Sabu get in there with me, and he grabbed me and he's like pulling me and pushing me and jerking me all around. And I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing. I guess just has some of my coordination and balance. I don't know. But then couple years into the business, though, I got stretched because of my ego, and it was probably 91. It was in Jumbo Beretta, big dude that fought in Japan all the time, and they all thought I was a prima donna, which I kind of was, but I had to show up one time, and I didn't even realize till after he'd already thrown me down several times what was happening, because he said, oh, yeah, show me some of your kicks. I was like, well, I mean, like I'll do this. Go show me. I kick him. He grabbed my leg drag me, and bend my leg. And I didn't even know to tap at first. They had to tell me to tap. So, he had my whole body rubbery, by the end of the night. And that was the experience. Was me passing a test. But nowadays, I don't think they'd even get away with that.
But I don't think so. Well, no, you would like that. No one would get away with that. But do you feel that was needed for you at the time to sort of like, you said you were a prima donna. Like obviously, like I think whenever confident people like you see confident people, some people can always misconstrue that as cockiness. And I think there's a fine line. Do you think that that's what it is? Your confidence sort of came across more than that to them and they had to check you? And did you, looking back, do you think it was the right thing for them to do?
I'm okay with it. You know, I think it probably was the right thing to do. I needed to be smartened up. I was a little too comfortable. There was a lot of things, you know, like I stayed with the promoter, so they didn't like that I was, you know, going to be getting a push because of that or whatever. But when I look at it, you know, I was cocky from like, I don't know, 16 till probably, I don't know, almost 10 years, really. That, you know, I'd go to the bar and stick my chest out, you know, and trying to look for a fight, you know, look for someone that's looking for a fight or whatever. And I got a bunch of stories. Matter of fact, I share those stories on my YouTube page at The Real RVD. It's called RVDology. No one's heard any of these stories, but I talk about them and also talk about what I learned from them and stuff. So it's something that I enjoy doing. But I was cocky, and they probably did the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes but that's the thing. It's learning the respect of the business as well. And I think that, like, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that come into like wrestling schools to learn like about the business and think, okay, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to train for a day, and then next week I'll be in WWE and I'll be in Mania by the next year. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be people that have that sort of like delusional aspect of it, like going in there to a certain degree. And old school way was like what? Like they wanted to make sure that you were going to be tough enough to be in the business to deserve to be in it.
Absolutely, yeah. And plus, if you're using somebody's name, throwing their name around, you know, if I'm telling people Sheik trained me and I'm the shits, you know, then that's no good for Sheik. So they would want to make sure that you're not going anywhere. So I had to sign like a 2-year commitment that I'm not going to go take bookings and have someone else undo whatever he's doing while he's training me. And he wanted to have control of the character as he's, you know, starting your career. So it was, you know, bookings would have to go through him if I worked for somebody else. Otherwise, I was just working for him. They used to be like that too, very onerous, and to train, you know, would cost several $1,000s that you would make payments to or whatever. And then that school in California, where I think I heard them say safety first. That was when I first moved out to California, so it was like around 97, 98-ish. They had a deal there where $25 a workout, no commitment whatsoever. So you could just go in and learn whatever and then go write a story about it, you know.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because it's like it was the same like back here, like as far as like in the early 2000s in wrestling here in Australia, like if you worked for one company, that's who you worked for. Like there was no working for other promotions. And over the years, that's changed now to the juggernaut that what we've got here in Australia. You know, as far as talent goes, they work everywhere. But you know, as far as like, you know, yourself, you know, going into ECW, like, you know, like for me, like ECW, you look at like the main, like, I don't know, Mount Rushmore, you want to call it, or like the legends of ECW, like your name is always mentioned in that list, right? So, you know, as far as yourself, like, you know, what is the most memorable moment for you from the original ECW? Like, what is something that is like you hold close to your heart from that, your time there?
Lots of good memories. Some of what comes to mind are because I've seen the footage played a million times, like me diving off the top rope out to the crowd on Bam Bam Bigelow. You know, the crowd at Queens. You know, they were like among the first to treat me like a big star, put me on a different level, and that was the first time that I noticed it. It was like right after I got the TV title, and I was on a whole different level. And also Queens started the RVD 420. I saw it on a sign someone had, you know, and that became a bit of a thing. Lots of good memories for ECW. Yeah.
I think like ECW created so many great moments in such a short period of time for what it was. As far as your character in ECW, like, you know, Mr. Monday Night, you know, which was basically created off, I believe, like a conversation you had with like Bischoff. Like, I'm not sure if that was a contract offer on the table, whatever it was. Like, it was a discussion. Something got back to Paul. You know, a word got out, and then next thing you know, like, this is now part of your character. Like, again, ECW, RVD, realism. You know, whose idea was the Mr. Monday Night gimmick?
I think it was Paul's. It would have had to have been, because I had no idea that he would be able to put me on WWE television. You know, that's not like something that I would ask him to do. If you don't want me to leave and go to WCW, put me on WWE television and I'll stay with you. That had to have come from him, and that's exactly what it was. But what I didn't know was that he was manipulating everybody the whole time. And the way that he got Vince to be okay with me being on WWE television is that Vince thought that I was coming to WWE, that I was leaving ECW, and I had no idea. I was told, soon as you see something that doesn't look right, say the word, we're out of here, because they don't like us here. This ain't gonna last long. You know, we're here to put ECW on the map and get ECW known on their TV. And as soon as something doesn't smell right, boom, you know, let's just say the word, we're a team, got each other's backs, man, we'll leave. That's what I was told. I didn't know the whole time that Vince thought that I was starting my fucking job there.
No shit.
Yeah, so that ended up blowing up kind of ugly, but it was lack of communication, lack of information, intentionally by Paul's part.
That's crazy though, but it's like it's the crazy world of professional wrestling, right? Like it's like, you know, I think, like, you know, obviously you look back at it now and you think, okay, so like I was obviously dollar signs in Paul's eyes, and he wasn't ready to let those dollars go, right? So there's a lot more that he wanted to do with you, but you know, as far as like looking back, is that like, do you look at that and like, do you have any anger towards him about it, or is it just like, it is what it is, it's happened, it's done?
Yeah, I don't fuck with anger very much. You know, I don't. It's not one of my emotions. But he also had to have known that I really didn't want to leave ECW, because he was risking a lot by putting me on WWE's show, knowing that WWE thought they were keeping me. You know what I mean? Like that could have gone a different way for him. Somebody could have smartened me up to the plans while I was there. I could have liked the plans, maybe. He could have lost me by trying to do this whole thing. So it's kind of amazing he was able to balance it, because I think he knew that I would rather stay in ECW if he could make it worthwhile. And so this was part of doing that.
ECW, like, such a loyal following, not just from like the fans, but also like, you know, so many dedicated people were part of it and were there to the very end. Whenever someone like left ECW, was there ever any, like, I don't want to say like anger or hatred, but like, fuck, man, like, really, you're leaving us, dude? Like, fuck, you're betraying us?
Absolutely. Yeah, there was. You know, everyone's got their own situation. Sometimes it's hard to remember that when you're just in a big pack, like with the locker room mentality. Everyone seems to know each other's business too much. Personal boundaries seem to be void, and people feel comfortable saying anything to anybody. But looking at it from wise 51-year-old RVD, everyone had their own situation that nobody else would know very much about. No matter how much you know about somebody, it's still very little of what overall there is to know. But we felt stabbed in the back when Mike Awesome left, and for a while there, like, Todd Gordon left and he was being a mole. Like, getting people hired from me. I think Raven, maybe Paris Saturn, I'm not sure, but he was like, I remember telling me, well, we'll get you over there too, man. You're coming too. Don't worry about it. And I was like, I don't think so. And I went and told Paul, like, do you know Todd Gordon's a mole and he's fucking taking your talent? Yeah.
But like, wasn't like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but wasn't Bill Alfonso also like in that sort of mix of the scandal to some degree? Like, am I wrong there? Like, I think like I've seen his name get mentioned or something.
Yeah, I can't remember to what extent, but him and Todd Gordon were close. They're friends, so that would make sense. And it sounds familiar that he might have been helping recruit some of the guys too, possibly.
Yeah, because I think like he had a match with Beulah McGillicuddy where they just like bled all over each other and just put on a war, and that's what saved him his job, from what I've seen in
okay.
So
that sounds familiar too. Yeah.
But how do you find working? Like, how do you find your time working with Fonzie? Because like the dynamic between the two of you, like, I mean, you're very chill, very laid back, and he's like really, really hype. And I think like the dynamic between the two was really cool to see on the screen. And then put Sabu in there as well. That third dynamic was great. Yeah. What was your feeling on working with Fonzie, and also once they added Sabu to the mix as well?
Oh, I loved it. I had a lot of fun with that. And just shortly before that, I was very uncomfortable doing promos. I was just at that stage in my career, where where I didn't feel like I could deliver something believable that I didn't give a fuck about. And so I tried to avoid going to the promo room. And I have to think that Paul probably gave me Fonzie as a mouthpiece and as someone to work off of to help me because of that, because I was weak in that area. And it totally worked. I mean, because out of the three of us, I felt like the responsibility to carry the promo, because Sabu wasn't going to say a whole lot. And Fonzie, I was just going to be, calm down. They already know, Daddy. They've already bought their tickets to see Rob Van Dam. That's right, Daddy. And I would just play off of him. And, and you too, Sabu. And I don't even know if Sabu knew what I was doing half the time. He would just punch me or something. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, like I loved because like we in Australia we only got like a select couple of like ECW DVDs back in the day, right? And or VHS tapes, and I'd wear those fuckers thin. And one of the best lines I heard you do was quoting The Sopranos. It was like, "No fucking ZD," and I was like, dude, like this is the most randomness thing to add into it. I was like, that is so fucking cool.
Well, I said that in a promo.
Yeah, you said like the Sopranos, no fucking ZD or some shit like that.
Yeah, Anthony says that, right, and gets yelled at.
Yeah, and like, I think it's like this, like the first episode.
Anthony came to the shows in Queens.
Oh, yeah, really?
I would see him in the stands. The kid that played the little Tony Soprano. He was a wrestling fan, and he'd be in the stands. And sometimes I would try to talk to him because I was a mark for the Sopranos, and he did not want to be distracted. He'd be like, huh? Okay. So he couldn't wait till I was done talking to him and go, yeah, New Jack, or whatever. He was so into it.
Because he's probably like a teenage kid at that stage and just not even realizing it's funny, man. Like my wife never had watched The Sopranos, and like just recently, a couple of months ago, like I said, that's it. We're gonna sit down and binge like the whole Sopranos.
Yeah.
And she was like, "This is the most awesome show I've ever seen." Like I just thought it was just about mafia and shit. Like I said, no, it's more about like him as an individual. Yeah. And she's like, "Oh, it's just it's such a cool show." She had no idea about it,
What about the sequel? You saw that?
The movie? Yeah, I did. I actually went to the movies and watched it. Like I saw it in the cinema.
It was just kind of like another episode, right?
I was disappointed.
It didn't feel like it summed up anything. It seemed to me like it had the vibe of watching another episode, like maybe there should be another one next week, more like that, which had its pros and cons.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. But one of the times that you did have in ECW, was there ever like a moment? Because I found like a world title reign, like you were pretty much one of the hottest talent in ECW for the longest time. Was there ever any talk about putting the world title on you after the TV title reign?
I don't pay attention to a lot of talk because there's so much talk, and then there's different stages of talk developing into action. What I remember, what I wanted to do, and I feel like this is the direction that we were heading before Mike Awesome left, was building him as the heavyweight champion, me as the TV champion, and the fact that I was main eventing and making the TV title mean more, and I had a prestige to it, just like the hardcore title in WWE. I did the same thing. Started main eventing with it, and they got rid of the belt because they didn't want it to be that important. But as I was doing that, I really wanted to wrestle against Mike Awesome. That match with him, us building up like separate pillars of building the whole company up, and then coming together to clash with a belt versus belt kind of thing. Like I really wanted that, and I had a lot of respect for Mike as a worker and as a champion, as a representative of ECW. That's great that our champion walks up the turnbuckles with his back to them, back steps up them, and power bombs his opponent, because that's like risky as fuck.
Yeah, dude, I always say like he's got to be one of the most underrated performers of all time. Like, you know what I mean? Like the guy looked like $1 million, and I feel like he just was like victim of very poor booking a lot of the time. Like once he left ECW, like I think his time in ECW was a killer. But
yeah, they made him into a 70s dude or something, and he ran. Yeah, he had a little mess of bad storyline bullshit.
It's sad, man, how that can just destroy a good talent. In wrestling, really, you can have someone who has all the tools to be the biggest star in the world, and then bad storyline, bad booking has just gone down that way. But have you for yourself,
there's backstage politics to that are hard to see, like he was Hulk Hogan's cousin, and so I'm sure that Hogan's position had a lot to do with his position, you know what I mean, and so forth, like the leverage. So
if people want to punish Hogan, they do it through him to, you know what I mean?
Or if they get rid of Hogan, they might, want to get rid of him or if they're not, definitely you get somebody behind you in the office, it's great. When they're not behind you anymore and they start to bury you, it's not so great. That's why I could never get to where I felt like I was untouchable. Like every time they lay everybody off every year after WrestleMania, everyone is so shocked. Oh my God, they let so-and-so go. I never felt like I was untouchable. I was like, oh, I'm not fired? All right, cool. I never would have been shocked if I was fired because they made me feel so expendable a lot of times.
Yeah, no, dude, 100%. Charles Redmond in the comment, and this is one of the matches I wanted to bring up with you as well. RVD versus ladder match on Raw, one of the best matches I've ever seen. I agree, man. Like you and Eddie Guerrero, like definitely to me, I think shared something very special in that ring together. Like, the frog splash versus frog splash, finish, two of probably the best of all time, in my opinion. What were your memories of that match, and how did you find working with Eddie?
I liked working with Eddie. He took his job very seriously. So so it was a little bit intimidating sometimes talking with him, just because I'm loose with the lips and I don't want to say anything that could offend him. But he's a lot of times he wouldn't be in the same goofy mood, but he's a serious guy a lot of times, and that came out in different ways. But when we had our first ladder match, because we had two, one was not televised, and then we did the one that was on TV, and they were both like a week apart or something. Eddie said he hadn't done a ladder match before, and he knew that was my thing. So he said, that he was looking forward to it, and it was all tell him what we were going to do.
Like in that match as well, that's when like I think a fan jumped in at some stage and grabbed Eddie. Like had that happened to you before, like where a fan had actually gotten inside the ring? Like, have you experienced it?
Yeah, I've had that happen probably like 3 or 4 times. What happened here? He came in and he pushed the ladder, and Eddie was on the ladder. The ladder fell over. It wasn't a very big ladder, I don't think, but Eddie just landed on his feet, and then he punched the guy, and then like that was the whole thing, And I was on the ground from something and could see that it was handled really quick, but yeah, that happens sometimes.
Yeah. Like, what's your take? Like when like fans do that, like, yeah, I mean, to do that, like, I think there's got to be some sort of like you're not mentally stable to go. I'm going to jump over here, and you know what I mean. Like that's like going to a play and jumping up on stage, or doing something like that. You're ruining the experience for so many other people. Like,
right. I mean, is it like the guy that streaks across the football field or whatever? I mean, I know that's a big thing that fans like to do is jump down and the referees are chasing them and they're usually naked. It is kind of a crazy thing to do, but also it's really just on the other side of the line from what a lot of people would go up to. When I was a fan, me and my friend, we would go to WWE shows, probably 15 years old, and I remember after the show, when I knew we were going to get kicked out anyway because the lights were on, it was time to leave, jumping the guardrail, going in the ring and doing a backflip off the top rope. I thought that was just the greatest shit ever. And to do that in front of everybody, that was like a dream for me. And I could see where we're going up, doing that when wrestlers are in the ring is just it's crazier, but it's only a bit crazier, I think. You know what I mean? Like it's where you draw the line, I think.
Yeah, dude. Like, like for me, like when I was like young and going to wrestling shows, like there is like no way. Like I'd sit there and go, man, I just want to go and touch the ring. And when it's like local shows, and as a kid, it's like, oh wow, like that's like, oh, taboo. I better not like get caught. But to see people get involved, like I think it's like, yeah, man. Like I just feel like it ruins the whole moment as well.
Yeah.
Like it's like,
and that's why they usually get beat up and trespassed, and it doesn't go well for them anyway.
Well, exactly, man. So yeah, fans don't fuck with wrestlers while they're doing their thing. It's simple as that. Look, as we're getting close to that 1 hour mark, I do want to be respectful of your time, but this a legendary career. Like I think there's so much to go through, and I don't want to sort of take up too much more of your time though, Rob. But I wanted to mention probably the first ECW One Night Stand and your promo in particular on that, where like that was like at a time in wrestling, like for me, like I was looking at it and I watched because I was a huge ECW fan, like many of us. And seeing your promo, man, like that just fired me the fuck up as a wrestling fan. Like I was just like, fuck yeah. Like, I mean? Like I'm on my feet. I can remember watching it with like my boys and we're just going, fuck yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, cause like the passion that you had, did you have an idea of what you were going to say, or were you just like feeding off that crowd?
No, I did have an idea. Nobody else knew what I was going to say, but I knew I had some points, and I was back there going over it in my head. I actually one time ran it by, it might not have been exactly word for word, but I ran it by Edge. He's the only one that heard it. We were outside on a fire escape, and I was, hey Edge, what do you think about this? So I was trying to speak it so that I would remember it myself and not fuck it up. But I went out there and I remember like he was like, wow, if you say out there what you just said now, holy fuck.
And was it pretty much as spot on as what you said in that fire exit?
Yeah, I think so. Pretty much, yeah, pretty much the same thing. Yeah, it was passionate for sure. That was the first time that I felt comfortable speaking and saying what I wanted to say instead of, trying to get their shit over. It made a huge difference.
It almost felt like it was like it was like I don't want to say work and shoot and all that sort of stuff, but it felt so real, that promo. Like it felt like it was legitimately from you,
Yeah,
the
it
person
was.
from the heart, than a character.
Yeah, it definitely was. Definitely was, and that's what has always been cool about ECW is, the more real it is, the better it is.
100%, man. But like when they wanted to relaunch ECW in WWE, like were you thinking, okay, this is going to be exactly how it was back in the day, or were you like going, nah, this is not going to be anything like what we used to have?
I thought that it was going to be close to how it was back in the day. And actually, it kind of was when it first started out. I had some really good matches with Bob Holly, Sabu, Big Show. Um, who else did I work during that time? The hardcore matches. But um, it very quickly, I saw it going south. Vince wanted to make only one match a night, an Extreme Rules match, instead of ECW means anything goes. Now they're going to add rules, and that's you're going to kill it. You're going to make it just like SmackDown. You're already fucking up by sending Raw and SmackDown guys to compete on ECW because it's confusing as hell, and you're polluting the talent pool. And ECW doesn't need that if you let us just be ourselves. But it wasn't meant to be. But I felt optimistic at first, and that optimism wore off with Discovery.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like winning like going up against, John Cena and winning that title, like that to me, that feeling of that match and that build up for it was like again something like, you know what I mean, like nothing before. Like that was like at a time was like almost, where, for me, like wrestling was becoming again like I must see this. I have to fucking see. Like I might miss WrestleMania this year or miss this, but I'm not missing fucking, One Night Stand 2006, right? Like that was the mentality. And the build up for the match with you and John Cena, like I thought it was, amazing, and probably like one of the first times we've ever seen Cena wrestle as a heel. And like, to be honest, I don't think he gets enough credit, to be honest, because I think like he really like played his role really well there and really seemed to, you know what I mean? Like he didn't get lost in the moment, if that makes sense to me.
Yeah, he's very good at what he does, and I had seen him get booed before when we were in Wales in the UK. And he got on the microphone and they're, boo, Cena sucks. And he was just like, all right, all right. He says, let me have it. Just keep screaming and yelling because then I know you're having a good time. And I'd rather have you, I'd rather have you screaming Cena sucks at me than have everyone there sitting on their hands because that's not what we're about. We're about here to have a show. So let's tear it up, And he just turned the people around. And then they were like, then they cheered for him. And I was amazed to see him do that. But the ECW One Night Stand crowd was a one of a kind, no pun intended. There was never a night in anybody's career that would match up for that. And the build up for that, for me, was my whole career up till that point.
Yeah, it was like, it was, it seemed like one of the most special nights for you. And like, you know what I mean? Like even like winning that and that moment, like that is the pinnacle, right? Like for every professional wrestler who makes it to WWE is the goal, the be all and end all, to be that champion and to be the face of the company.
That's, you can make a blanket statement like that and it's correct. But for me, the fact that I always stuck to the, stuck to my guns, the Extreme Rules, I always stuck to that, even when people promoters tried to change me, tried to get me to shake that off, told me, give that up. That stuff's garbage. And I stuck to my favored style of being exploited. And because I stuck to my guns, I brought it back. I was the one that went to Vince with the idea of bringing ECW back. So,
Really?
So by all that, and then bringing ECW back as a pay-per-view, then I was the right foot to put forward, only because I changed the entire playing field. Otherwise, I don't think I would have ever necessarily been that top guy. I would have always just been a wild card, quite possibly. And because all these things fell in line, that's the reason that I ended up on top. And I didn't believe it was going to happen until it actually happened, until I was actually holding the gold at the end. But so even more so than just most wrestlers wanting to be world champion, even more than that, it was the way that I did it my way, and found support where I was told there wasn't.
That's the thing, man. It's like, because it's like, to go in there and do it your style, be the person you are and the character that you are. You seem to me to really understand the performer that you are and what you do. And to stick to your guns in your beliefs. Like, you seem like you're one of those people that won't sort of back down from your personal values and belief.
Yes, and I can look back when I was much younger and think there's probably times when I could have been a little bit more flexible, when I hadn't necessarily earned the right to be so stubborn on my values. Now I've earned it, and I've proven it. Also, I've proven that the way I do things must work for me. But there's times when I could have been a little less stubborn in the past. But then if I did, then I guess I wouldn't be me. There's no telling, what would have happened if I had been a little more moldable. A lot of people are, like, in the entertainment business. If you can sing and dance and play the tough guy, play the father, play the gay guy, all this, then you're, that's a great actor. That's someone that can really do a whole lot. I've never claimed to be that guy. I've never, So like, I remember I was talking with Katie about this, my wife. I hated so much when we had to do this commercial for a Survivor series that was West Side Story. We all had to sing and dance. I hated that. I was so miserable.
I found it so funny seeing like certain people doing, like certain wrestlers doing that, because it just seems so like out of character to do it. And it's like,
I hated it. Yeah, that's not me. Just just sing like you do when you're home. I don't sing at home.
Oh, dude, like 100%, man. And with once winning the ECW, WWE, and then restarting ECW with the title, into that, when you got pulled over, Sabu, it's documented what happened there. We don't go into too much detail if you don't want to there, but what was the feeling once you sort of like first got backstage after everything that had happened with the being pulled over? Was there an automatically, like, everyone knew what was going on? Did you feel like you had to go directly and let them know? Like, what was just going through your mind when you were arriving at that show?
Yeah, so Sabu wanted to go straight to Johnny Ace and tell him, and I'm like, why? Are you fucking crazy? I've gotten busted several times in the office, never found out about it. Like, that didn't even sound like an appealing idea. But by the time we got there, everybody did already know about it. And 2-day-old hiccups. We actually walked by Vince, and he wasn't ready to talk to us yet, and we could tell. He looked at us, gave us kind of a stern look. It just like walked straight by, didn't stop, shake our hand or whatever, and that didn't feel too comfortable because I figured he's pissed. Later on when I saw him, after he had a chance to figure out what he was going to do, talk to his advisors, this and that, then he was cool as could be. He pulled me aside and just said, explained, Rob, we're going to suspend you for 30 days. You're going to be dropping the WWE title tonight, in the ECW title tomorrow. Take this time and get some rest. He was really cool, take this time and get some rest when you're home. And I wanted more time. I was so tired of being on the road. I asked Paul to ask for an extension at the end of the 30 days. He won't like that.
That's a pretty good Paul Heyman impression.
He didn't ask. He knew better than to ask Vince for me, but I was like, ask him if I get more time off.
Well, obviously you needed it, like to even have that mindset to say, hey, like, because at the peak of your career, going, hey, like, I'm burnt the fuck out. I need to step the fuck back.
Yeah.
And I think like people can sit there who haven't been in your shoes can say, oh, like, how can you be like that? But whatever. But until you've actually been at that top and doing what you're doing consistently for as long as you can, you're gonna get burnt out from it, no matter who you are.
Yeah, that's a really monotonous schedule they had us on that most people wouldn't be able to do. Most people wouldn't be able to do 2 months of being on the schedule. I don't know if it's not going to be like that post-COVID. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how all the world's going to be different, but that was something that, you definitely had to love the business and remember how bad you wanted it before, when you were younger to keep sitting on the bus and keep getting on that airplane.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, one of the things I wanted to ask you, and sorry to sort of backtrack here, but one of the things I look at over how WWE's policies are and their disciplinary actions were, they suspend you for 30 days back in 2006, right?
I think so, yeah.
Strip you of both titles. You're the main event, of the company, the face of the business, and the new brand, ECW brand. 2022, we're seeing, WWE, performer get arrested time after time for DUI. 2 weeks later, they're putting the tag belts on him. You know what I mean? Like, do you look at that and just go, like, motherfucker? Like, is that politics in wrestling? Like, is that like? Am I seeing something and go, how can you have that happen in 2022, but like 15, 16 years ago, like you had a more stricter policy?
Right. Well, I mean, I think that particular circumstance does sound politically incentivized, but in general, I look at things like that as progression and moving forward. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think
you can't judge someone what they do in their personal time as opposed to their professional time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think necessarily that I should have been in all that trouble like months before I ever had my day in court. You know what I mean? I was instantly found guilty by WWE, suspended, lost both championships. I don't think they should have done it to me moving forward. If they quit doing that to people, then that's good. Even if I had to be the sacrificial lamb or whatever, so to speak, I don't mind that. That's how we make changes.
Yeah, it's a progressive way to think. Is it true on like the night that you dropped the ECW title that the crowd had been made aware of what happened and was chanting like 18 grams at you or like 16 grams or some shit?
It was marijuana, 18 grams. Marijuana, 18 grams. That's how I found out. I had no idea how much I had.
like, do you look back at that as like a funny moment, or is that just like
that was funny? That was funny, but a few minutes later, at the end of the match, it was one of the worst moments of my career I can remember. When I lost, Paul made the count. Paul turned on me to count 1, 2, 3. I used to have those matches in Philly, and then I went and brought ECW to WWE, and then I beat WWE with ECW. So I'm coming back home. This is my home return to come back and say, hey, look what I did for us hardcore motherfuckers. And instead I dropped the ball. So I felt like I let everybody down and uh, everyone's throwing their cups and everything into the ring. And I was laying there. I just rolled under the bottom rope, and I was rolling under the ring. I just wanted to find a gutter to just like slither into, and I just felt like so bad. Like I felt like I had let everybody down, and they were all like boo, and they were pissed that Paul made the count, and then I dropped the belt and all that, but just over everything, and I caused that to happen, you know. So
it's hard, man. Like that feeling of that would have been extremely hard for you. I can only imagine. And was there ever any talk of like you? Like, I know you said you don't pay much attention to talk, but like once the 30 days, was it anything said like, okay, once you come back, we're going to get you back in that main event picture? Or was it just like, no, you're never going back? Well, like, was there anything even said?
I came back and I was wrestling Big Show for the championship a lot. He was the champion, and so I was chasing him for it, and I was disappointed that they were booking a lot of the shitty old arenas that ECW used to do, like ice rinks and small ass places, and it looked like they were not advertising it, trying to get the old hardcore authentic ECW feel like back in 95 before they could draw, Yeah. I was very disappointed in that. It looked like they said, okay, ECW, we're going to give you your own show. You got a $50 advertising budget, make some posters. And that's what it felt like. I was disappointed in that. So then not long after, Vince started saying one Extreme Rules match per night, instead of ECW means anything goes. And he's already got the Raw and SmackDown guys wrestling on the ECW show, which is confusing. And so the whole thing was going down. I knew that I was going to take a break when my contract was up, which I knew was coming up in a couple months. So I waited it out, finished my contract, and then just chose to not re-sign.
Yeah. And that's obviously you were saying before, like you're wanting more time off when you got your 30 days. Like,
same thing when I got my knee surgery. I was off for 12 months and wanted more time.
Yeah. Is it because you just wanted like the more time just to chill, or was it you felt your body needed more time to recover?
Mostly I learned to really not enjoy being on the road, and home is really comfortable, Even when shit wasn't that great at home, like with my Evil X, it still was like my place to go and my bed to lay down and whatever. And just going through being on the grind where you're renting a car, hopping on a flight every day, for 5 days out of every 7 or so. I had enough of it. I had enough. I needed to find other reasons to keep doing it.
And what led you to TNA or Impact, or in now Impact Wrestling? What led you to that?
I was not on contract with WWE anymore, and I was just doing indie shots, and they reached out to me. And one thing that was really, really cool, I was doing a radio show, kind of like you're doing. I used to do that on Blog Talk Radio. And one time Hulk Hogan called my phone to try to talk me into coming to TNA while I was doing my show. So I put him on the air, and I'm just, so Hulk, why do you think RVD would do well in TNA Impact? And he was just like, we need you, brother. And he did. It was just so cool. Like, it was a really long. He stayed on for 45 minutes or something, and it was a shoot. We were talking about it, and I had said, when Hulk Hogan calls me, then I'll know they're serious, and he did. Yeah. They were already reaching out. So that was just we worked out a deal, signed a 3-year deal, getting paid per match. Boom, boom, 75 matches a year. Prospectively, that was way better than what I had before.
Oh, 100%. Like, and a lot more time at home to rest and less travel. Is there much comparison between WWE and TNA then? Like when you went in there, like were they very similar backstage? Like what was the feel?
I wouldn't say that they're similar because WWE is just so big. It's so big. There's so many different departments, and people, hundreds of people working there that you don't even know, that are office people or whatever. Impact was a way smaller, scaled down version of it. They would have like team meetings and stuff. They were still like the underdog. At the time when I first went there, they were doing live Monday night shows, trying to run up against Raw, which they didn't do for very long before they started going back to taping. But it nothing seemed to. It wasn't really comparable to WWE at all. WWE is like a machine, where everything goes smooth. And Impact was more like trying to wonder like how everything is still holding together without all those bolts and nuts that are missing. It's the opposite of, I don't know, but it was the job was somewhat similar, as far as just wrestling, but WWE was the biggest job in wrestling, maybe the biggest star, biggest money. Impact was the easiest, and ECW was the most fun.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like ECW was like the passion place for so many people, and like I think when you're passionate about something, that's where you have the most fun. And it's funny, like whenever you have something that you're passionate about, whether it be a hobby or something like that, and then as soon as it becomes like a profession, I think that's where sometimes the love for it can sometimes slowly dwindle.
Absolutely. I run into that all the time myself. Yeah. Once money's talked about and then money keeps being mentioned, then I'm expecting money to come in. And then eventually if it doesn't, there goes my passion. And I'm like, if we wouldn't have made it business, it would have been fun. That happens all the time. Yeah.
100%, man. But you know what? I wanted to mention before we start wrapping up, the character that you started portraying in Impact with your now wife, Katie Forbes, and, the cancel culture stable. I loved this gimmick because it showed more of you, like a different side of you as a performer. Whereas like you could see like this is you having some serious fucking fun. And that's where like I started enjoying that because I'm like, you know what, I'm having fun because this guy's having fun. Like I'm happy for this dude. He looks like he's having the time of his fucking life. And to put it there, like whose idea was it for Rob Van Dam? Like the party guy, the living the lavish life, whatever you want to label the gimmick as, but whose idea was it to bring that to life?
Oh, it was a writer that first brought it to my attention, and it showed me how much they actually follow our social media because based on some social media posts that we had posted, he wanted us to talk about our girlfriend Jennifer, and then we ended up bringing her on the show actually, and his name was I think his name was Robert, but he was a writer. He was just a writer, and he was like, even like when we did that thing where that wild sex thing, and we got Impact kicked off of Twitch. Like I never in one part of that, I never felt like that was on my shoulders because they not only did they write it and were they filming it, but they edited it before they turned it in. So I just figured they wanted to be risky. I don't know.
Yeah, but I felt like it pushed the envelope in a lot of ways. And like you also got that sort of Charlie Sheen vibe, like when he sort of like was did his sort of interviews back like years ago, where it's
Yeah.
like, and it was the same sort of thing, man. It just looked like this guy's living his best fucking life, and like, just fucking bravo, dude. Like, you're living the life we all want to fucking, you know what I mean? Like, that's reality, bro. Like, what are you gonna be like? No, I'm not fucking upset about my life. Like, look at me. But I thought it was great. I thought it was a definite, a different side than we've ever seen of your character, and showed you just how good of a performer that you are. I think, like, on other levels of like what we've seen.
Appreciate that.
No, absolutely. But it is that time of the show for Guess the Aussie Slang. How this is going to work, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give a slang word or phrase to Mr. RVD. If it's a word, I'm going to put it in a sentence. If it's a phrase, I'll make sure to paraphrase it correctly. But Rob, like, have you been to Australia a few times? Like, what's your connection?
Yes, I have. What was the last time I was there? I wrestled there in 2019, I think maybe in 20 also for BCW.
Yeah, Battle Championship Wrestling here. Always puts on some great shows. But okay, so like in that time, did you pick up any of the slang words or any of the phrases that we've used?
If I did, I don't remember.
All right, cool. Well, we'll go through a few of them, and we'll see how you go. Okay, first one is no fucking wuckers, and I'll put it in a sentence for you. No fucking wuckers, mate.
Good sentence. And I am to guess the meaning of it.
Yeah, like what does it mean? Like if I say to you,
no,
fucking
I think it means it doesn't make sense. No common sense.
No, it means like no fucking worries, bro. Like no worries at all. Like it's all good. Okay, so here's another one. What's the John Dory? And I'll put this in a sentence I was used. G'day, mate. How you going? What's the John Dory?
The Carfax.
The what, sorry?
Carfax. Carfax is something you can get information on a car before you buy it, like a John DeLorean.
No, so what it actually means, it means what's the John Dory? What's happening? What's the story? So John Dory is like the John Dory is a fish here. So yeah.
Okay, I might have been able to guess that eventually.
All right, so we'll go maybe a couple of easy ones. So this one is budgie smuggler, and I'll put it in a sentence for you. Oh shit, Rob, my dad just turned up at my house and he's in my swimming pool and he's wearing his budgie smuggler.
Well, it's I believe it's some form of like a bikini bottom underwear.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. It's a Speedo. So yeah, they call it a budgie smuggler because when you get out of the water, it looks anyway. You get what I mean. So moving on to the next one is dog's breakfast. Jeez, mate, that looks like the dog's breakfast.
It looks bad.
Yeah, like messy, looks pretty bad. So I'll get a couple more. Now, these next ones are going to be some multiple choice. Look at that.
Man, I don't know. Didn't know I was going to go through all of them on this interview, but yeah.
I'm glad you did, man. Look at him go. Okay, so second last one. This is going to be a multiple choice. It's going to be, and I'll put it all in a sentence. It's going to be Bottle-o, Durries. Servo, Durries, Bottle-o, Slab, Maccas. So, hey, Rob, before you come past my house, can you swing past the Servo, pick up a pack of Durries for me, then go to the Bottle-o, grab a Slab, and then swing past Maccas before you come to my joint? What have I asked you to do?
You asked me to stop by the pot dealer's house and get an ounce of weed, give him a Van Daminator, And no, I don't know.
I asked you to go past a service station, a servo, which is like a gas station, pick up a pack of durries, which is cigarettes. Then I asked you to go. Yeah, then I asked you to go to a bottle-o, which is a liquor store, and pick up a slab, which is a case of beer, and then swing past Macca's, which is McDonald's.
Okay.
But okay, so this last one's a little bit blue, right? So it's going to be Franger, Old Fella, Sheila, Root. And I'll put it in a sentence for you. Hey, Rob, you got a spare Franger for me, Old Fella, man? I just picked up this Sheila and she's keen for a Root.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. So, hey, Rob, have you got a spare Franger for my Old Fella? Because I picked up this Sheila and I think she's keen for a Root.
You asked me for a Viagra because you got a missus and she's ready to go.
Yeah, I'm asking for a condom for my old fella because I picked up a lady that is ready to go. But yeah, same sort of deal. But that has been, guess, the Aussie slang. Yeah, Rob, thank you so much for being on. Again, someone like yourself, we've just gone through an hour and 30, and I really feel like we haven't really touched the surface, man, of your illustrious career. Rob, you've got your YouTube channel going. You have your CBD brand going. Where can everyone go and support and, follow you on these journeys? And how can they support you, with your new business ventures?
Yeah. So I am at the Real RVD everywhere. That's my YouTube page where I want you to go and subscribe. And my CBD business has a lot of product. Now, the way that people can help is to tell their local stores that they need RVD products in there. It's not just CBD, but it's all handled differently because you can mail CBD across state lines, although not international, and THC, it state by state has to be grown and licensed separately. But I'm looking to expand and grow into everything. So basically, look for my brand and tell the people where you get your supplies that you need RVD brand.
There you go, guys. Go and support RVD. As soon as we get it international, these Australian wrestling fans are going to get behind it. Guys, huge shout out to our sponsors, Health Vape, and also Sleeves.com for all of their support. Go and check them out. Use those promo codes MWA Pod. Also in the description of this video in YouTube and all podcast platforms will be the links for RVD CBD company, and also the link to his YouTube channel. Go share, like, subscribe, leave a comment for Rob, all that good stuff. But guys, thank you very much, Rob, for being on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope we get to do this again in the future. This has been a great time for me. Thank you.
Awesome. Right on, Piers. Have a great day.
Same to you. See you guys. Peace.